I talk a little bit about fear and courage and fearlessness and what all of that stuff really looks like. And when I say that, it's like fear to courage. I'm supposed to be talking about courage. Knees are shaking, hands are shaking, voice is shaking a little bit. Because what I've learned in my life is that fear, or courage, is fear walking. And I'll tell you that facing my story and facing my past didn't come easy. I always joke that I left I leave claw marks on every single door that I ever went through. And one of the things that really woke me up to living a life, of realizing that I was really living a life of fear, was in 2012, I got a phone call that completely changed my life. My mother, on the other end, had said, "He's dying." And I said to her, "Why are you telling me nothing ever happened?" So I go back to a time when I was 9, 10 years old, moments of impact. I get off the school bus, and I grew up around the Bay, so when you grow up around the Bay, you live next door to Nan and everybody else in the family. And there was a police car in my grandmother's driveway, and I was scared. I was maybe 9, maybe 10 years old. Didn't really know what was happening, so I run home, and I open my bedroom door, and I step in, and my mother and my aunt are inside my bedroom. They're sitting on the bottom bunk of a room that I shared with my sister. And I remember, these moments of impact that I call them are the moments that everything stands out to you. You can remember where you were, you can remember smells, you can remember sights and sounds and colors and things that just don't make sense. And for the rest of my life, I had this vision of me as a child with my school bag in my right hand, frozen in fear, where I stayed for 2.5, 3 decades maybe. They wanted to know, what did he do? You have to tell us. I wasn't courageous. I didn't have courage. I lied. I said, nothing happened. They're all lying. He didn't touch me. It didn't happen. I took this big giant thing and I put it in a box. And I said, I won't be that girl. I didn't want that story to follow me. I wanted the rhymes that the kids in the neighborhood were making up about our family to go away. I didn't want to be that family. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to be a child. And so I took this big thing that happened to me and I put it in this box and I put it in a closet. And I convinced myself that it didn't happen. I went through life not realizing that I was a textbook case of a childhood sexual abuse survivor. Every single decision that I made in my life was separating who I thought that I was or what I feared that I had become because of it. Every single decision and choice that I made, that was the only thing that really mattered. And so in 2012, it had caught up, because there's only so long you can run from the past before the past catches up, before the past comes knocking at your door. My husband didn't know, not one friend. I managed conversations around people. I was in heightened awareness constantly. Fight, flight, freeze. Freeze in person, fly away in my mind. I spent most of my time off somewhere in, some la-la land, or living in denial, or a pretend world or a pretend existence that just seemed so much easier to live in. But what I found that I had at 2012, at 32 years old, was a life that was made up. It was make-believe. The people in my life didn't know who I was. Nobody. I didn't know who I was. And so I went to his funeral. I wanted to know, how would I feel? I wanted to see him. He was not criminally responsible. He was remanded to the Waterford Hospital, where he spent his days until he died when he was maybe 66, I think. And he wasn't well. So I looked down at him in that coffin and I thought, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. And I was like, he was a victim of the Catholic priests, and I was his victim. We were both just victims, lost lives, destroyed, so many people hurt by this. And as I looked down, I realized, when was the last time I felt anything? I don't know what feeling feels like anymore. I was numb. But I wouldn't stay numb for long. As it turns out, that was my big wake-up call. That was when I started to notice that I didn't even know if I liked eggs. I just became what everybody else wanted me to become. I just blended and fit in wherever I went like a chameleon. Who am I? And I started to ask those big questions. And so I had to take this box. And my abuse, yeah, that was one thing that was in there. But the million decisions that I made, the shame that I carried from the lack of courage that I actually had when I was 9 years old, I was too scared to speak up. Other people spoke up. And that's what gave them what they needed to remove him from the yard, as they say around the bay. But it wasn't me. And I was trapped in this constant fear. And I struggled. People call me courageous every day, and people call me brave every day. You're so brave, and you do all the things that you set your mind to do. And I thought, do I really get to call myself courageous? I wasn't courageous when it mattered. Not back then. But today, it took me a really long time to get through the contents that were in that box. And the more that I took out of that box, and the more parts of myself that I reclaimed, and the more power that I took back in my life, the more I realized that my story matters. Not because I was silenced, not because I didn't speak, but because I had a chance to speak, and I still chose silence. I silenced myself, and then I continued to silence myself for almost 30 more years. And I speak today for the millions of women who have silenced themselves, or society silenced, and men too. You know, there's a lot of men who are also dealing with a very similar story, and I realize that my story is important for those people to realize that it's never too late to speak up. It's never too late to take out whatever you put in that box, because I believe every one of us are given this box. Maybe when we're born and it seems innocent at first, and we're just trying to survive, and maybe we're just trying to get through childhood, or we're trying to get through high school, we're trying to, survive another day, maybe in motherhood, or trying to survive another day in a marriage, and you take these things and you put them in this box, and you think, I'll deal with that someday. But then before you even know it, you have too many things in the box, and when it explodes, it looks like a jack in the box, and all your bits are all over the floor, and you're in a onesie crying in the bathroom, wondering how you're gonna get your life back together. I'm just saying that might be. It could happen. I'm just saying. I know somebody that might have happened to. And so, you didn't start the timer. I still have another 10 minutes. I'm kidding. So out of all of that stuff, I want to kind of leave you with a message today, and I want to read it. Because I wrote this, and I think it's really important, and I don't want to miss anything. So I normally don't read off my paper, so just kind of forgive me for this one. But the message that I really want to leave with you is that I really opened that box for myself at 32 years old. And I'm 38 now. So I've lived more in the last 3 or 4 years of my life than I did in all the years before that. Because I wasn't able to feel anything. I wasn't able to truly live. I couldn't let people see who I was, because I was always putting distance from me and that story, and what I thought was wrong with me, and what I thought, what will people think? And so doing this work has been the most courageous thing that I've ever done. And I realized that courage is fear walking. It's not about not being afraid. It's about feeling that fear and stepping into it every single time. Because life on the other side of that, I can promise you, is worth it. So this is the message that I really want to leave you with today. Don't live a half life because of what happened to you. No matter what it is, what you did, didn't do, what you said or didn't say. I promise if you let yourself feel the fear and move through it, lean into it, you will be brought home to your own wild soul. The part of you that you buried with that wound, thinking it would go away. That only the darkness will be taken with it. But it wasn't. It took your light too. Your hope, your beauty, your love, your zest, your passion. Until there was nothing left but a shell of a person. Until something comes along to shake you awake to the way you've not really been living at all. All your work is to lean into that. Work through that pain. Take out the box of darkness and sift through the contents, taking the lessons and leaving the rest. Reclaim the parts of you that you lost with each thing that you put into that box. And as you unpack it, process it, pick up the pieces of the real you that you left behind to do that work. Because for too long, women have been trained to tread softly, to make others comfortable, to bury ourselves, to dull who we are, to give up ourselves, to sit on a shelf and look pretty. But those days are over. Look within, find who you really are, pick up your sword and fight for yourself, because it's less about what happened to you and more about what you do about it, who you become in spite of it, not because of it. Thank you.